A couple of weeks ago, I posted a video about Mike Mentzer's heavy-duty style of training, and then I got this comment. So, of course, I wrote like a correction in the bio. I didn't want to delete the whole video and start all over again because of a mistake like that. But the comment got me thinking about the 1980 Mr. Olympia. Arnold Schwarzenegger had been gone for 5 years, shooting movies and basically just fucking around. But in the 1980s, he surprised everyone at the Mr. Olympia. Many people thought that Mike Mentzer should have won that day. And then I started thinking about the 1972 Mr. Olympia, when many people thought that Sergio Oliva should have won that day. And then I started thinking about making a video on the history of bodybuilding and some of the scandals that have occurred. That's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to talk about the history of bodybuilding from the absolute earliest beginnings, and then we're going to move on from space and time and talk about some of the scandals. So let's jump right in. And the story begins with a man called Eugene Sandow. Eugene Sandow is often called the father of modern bodybuilding. At a time when strength performers were mostly circus acts, Sandow introduced something completely new. The idea that the human body wasn't just strong, it could be art. He sculpted his body with intention, symmetry, proportion, definition. He treated himself like a living statue, and audiences were obsessed. He toured Europe and America, performing strongman feats and posing on stage, which was unheard of back then. But Sandow wasn't just a performer, he was a businessman too. He wrote fitness books, sold exercise equipment. He was basically the world's first fitness influencer. And in 1901, Sandow made history by hosting the Great Competition at the Royal Albert Hall in London, the first major bodybuilding contest ever recorded. Even today, when a bodybuilder wins the Mr. Olympia, the trophy is sculpted to look like Eugene Sandow's physique. And here's actually a fun fact about Eugene Sandow. He was fucking crazy. He told stories about fighting wild animals, even a lion with his bare hands. Of course, no one actually believed those stories. But either way, it helped him build like this legend image, which, when you think about it, is probably the first example of politics in bodybuilding. The art of controlling your public image. After Eugene laid the foundation for bodybuilding, the sport evolved slowly, but it wasn't until one man stepped in that bodybuilding became truly a global phenomenon, and that man is Joe Weider. Joe Weider was more than just a promoter, he was a visionary, and honestly one of the most influential figures in fitness history. In the 1940s and 50s, he launched fitness magazines like Muscle & Fitness and Flex magazine, which became the Bible of bodybuilding culture. If Sandow inspired the idea of the perfect physique, Joe Weider turned it into an industry. But Weider didn't just stop at magazines. In the mid-1960s, he created the biggest bodybuilding event the world had ever seen, the Mr. Olympia. This wasn't just another competition, this was the stage, the place where the best bodybuilders in the world battled for the title of the ultimate physique. And it was on that stage that one of the most iconic athletes in the history would rise. Weider discovered Arnold in Europe and immediately saw potential. He brought him to America, sponsored him, mentored him, and essentially turned him into bodybuilding's first superstar. Arnold became the face of the sport, and Joe Weider was the architect behind it all. But this was also where things get interesting, because when one man controls the magazines, the promotions, the federation, and the competition itself, people start to ask questions. Questions about influence and favorism. The first scandal on the Mr. Olympia stage happened in 1972 in Essen, Germany. This was the height of the rivalry between Arnold and Sergio Oliva. Sergio Oliva was known as the Myth because his physique was so unbelievable that people thought it had to be fake. The two had battled on stage before, but 1972 was different. This was supposed to be Sergio's night. When Sergio stepped on stage, he was huge, dense, full, and incredibly conditioned. Many in the audiences thought that he looked untouchable. Yet, when the winner was announced, it was Arnold. And almost all of the athletes that was on the competition thought that Sergio should have won that day. Except, of course, Franco Columbu, which was Arnold's best friend. Sergio himself has said that he could never beat Arnold under the Weider system. Whether true or not, the seeds were planted. For the first time in bodybuilding history, people began to openly question the fairness of the judging. The idea that results could be influenced by relationships, business interest, and behind-the-scenes politics started right here. And this wouldn't be the last time that Arnold's victories sparked outrage. In 1980, Arnold wasn't a competitive bodybuilder anymore. He had retired 5 years earlier after winning the 1975 Olympia, a victory famously documented in Pumping Iron. After that, Arnold switched his focus completely to acting. When the 1980 Mr. Olympia rolled around in Sydney, Australia, nobody expected to see Arnold on stage. In fact, he didn't even announce that he was competing until the morning of the show. The athletes backstage were stunned. Mike Menzer, Chris Dickerson, Boyer Coe, Frank Zane, everyone knew the legend was back.
1980 Mr. Olympia.
It was not a good experience.
Arnold came back in 1980 pretty much for ego, to beat Frank Zane, Mike Menzer, and to protect Joe. One of the judges was asking him to do the mandatories or he would be disqualified.
The guy's name was Dennis Stallard, I remember, from Wales. Arnold, you're disqualified, get off the stage.
Really?
So he did get off the stage, and that night Stallard was fired and they sent him back to England.
And yet, when the judges tallied up the scores, the winner of the 1980s Mr. Olympia was announced as Arnold Schwarzenegger. The competitors were furious. Mike Menzer was so angry that he retired completely from bodybuilding on the spot, and he never returned. Chris Dickerson, who many people also believe should have won, called the result a joke. And Boyer Coe said it was the most disrespectful judging he had ever seen. Even Arnold's close friend, Franco Columbo, later admitted that the decision was questionable. So why did Arnold win? Arnold was Joe Weider's biggest star, he was the face of bodybuilding, he was the sport's biggest marketing tool, and he was the person that made bodybuilding absolutely explode in popularity. Many people think that the 1980 Mr. Olympia was the most controversial bodybuilding contest of all time. And after that competition, it was clear. Bodybuilding wasn't just a sport, it was a business. And sometimes business comes first. You would think that after the chaos in the 1980s Mr. Olympia, they would most definitely not make the same mistake again. But instead, they poured gasoline into the fire, because in 1981, bodybuilding got hit with another scandal. And who showed up in the 1980s Mr. Olympia? Some great guys like Tom Platz, and of course, Arnold's best friend, Franco Columbo. Franco had won the Olympia back in 1976, but in 1981 he was returning after a brutal leg injury.
Franco moving quickly and he's injured his left leg. Columbo is hurt. They're rushing to assist him. Young is coming on through the course.
His symmetry was off, his legs was noticeably downsized, and even he admitted that he wasn't in his best shape. Yet somehow, Franco won the competition. And the boos were even louder than in 1980. Competitors were furious, calling the judging disrespectful, political, and rigged.
And I went back to my dressing room, and meanwhile, the leaders left, and the judges are getting things thrown at them and stuff. I went to my dressing room, and that's when I punched the walls and called the judges' names, okay? And, I composed myself, and I was asked what I felt, and I said, well, I think Franco should have placed a little lower, and I should have placed a little higher. Thank you.
For many, this confirmed the suspicion. Bodybuilding was controlled by politics, friendships, and business interests, and not objective judging. So yeah guys, we have gone through the earliest stages of bodybuilding, the history, and some of the scandals during the golden era. And of course, keep in mind that I wasn't there. The only thing that I can go on is the pictures that I can see, and of course the athletes that were there, and some of the fans that were there those days. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, and I'll see you next time. You like my microphone, guys? It's a cheese grater. You can thank us Norwegians for that. I think. Let me double check that shit. Who invented the cheese grater?
The cheese grater, as we know it today, doesn't have a single inventor who's definitively credited. The concept evolved gradually over time. Graters have been around since ancient times, and they've appeared in various forms across different cultures. The more modern box-style cheese grater emerged in the 16th or 17th century.
No, I mean the fucking cheese grater for, like, For slices, you know?
I got it. You're referring to the modern handheld cheese slicer, like the one that slices cheese into neat, thin pieces. The most famous design is the Norwegian cheese slicer, which was invented by Thor Björklund in 1925.
Thor Björklund heter han, ikke Thor Björklund. You f***ing retard. Now f*** off.